Hey guys, I'm Jackie Brubaker, host of the Love You Even More podcast. I'm an author, speaker, 2-time Emmy Award winner, and entrepreneur. I'm a Jackie of all trades and a master of some. Each week, I bring on people from all walks of life to talk to them about their inspiring stories in the fields of self-development, relationships, business, and how you can love yourself even more. For more about me and the podcast, visit us at loveyouevenmore.com. Welcome, Emily Depauw, to the Love You Even More podcast. Emily is a dear friend of mine, and she is a movement and alignment coach. She helps people get their bodies back in alignment so that they can function better, they can breathe better, move better. Actually, there's so many parts to it that we're going to get into that help. But we just recently worked together, and I was so incredibly impressed at how fast my body started changing that I was like, we need to get on the podcast and you need to talk to people about what you do, because this is so much more than, I think people think about like PT, like physical therapy or anything like that, which I know you have a background in, but it's so much more than that. And it's so special. So Emily, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So we've known each other for a long time. And it's funny because we knew each other in high school a little bit, kind of, not really. You knew of me. Long story. Anyway.
I knew you.
You knew me. It was different. But then we re-met 2 years ago now, 3 years?
2 years ago.
Years.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was talking to you and you were telling me what you did. And I was like, I've got to work with you. And then we just became friends. And then we didn't work together that way until recently.
We didn't work together. Yeah.
We became friends. Right. And recently I was like, yeah, let's do it. And we did it. And it really is life-changing for me on not only like a physical level, but a spiritual and an emotional level. And that's why this is so special. So first of all, before we jump into all of that funness, let's talk about what it is you actually do. So please tell people what you do and take your time, embellish all the things.
Well, thank you for this introduction. I am a movement and alignment coach. Basically, I help people use their body to get the body they want. And a lot of times so the reason I say movement and alignment coach is because aligned movement is what will help you perform optimally. It is what will decrease your likelihood of injury. Aligned movement is what will allow you to recover faster. And so that's what I help people with. And a lot of times we're sort of, I say ice skating uphill because, which can be very difficult. When you're focusing on, let's say, more of site specific or symptom or limit specific exercises. So if it's like, I have a restricted shoulder, so I'm going to do, let's say, this rotator cuff protocol or these shoulder exercises only on this shoulder that's restricted. It can help a little, but it doesn't move the needle all the way. And that's because nothing exists in a vacuum. And so the reason, we'll say in this case, you are experiencing a shoulder restriction on one side and not the same as the other side, and that it's only on, only the shoulder, is because the shoulder is letting you know that there is a dysfunction somewhere else in the body that the shoulder has had to compensate for and work around and do work outside of its job description. And that's why we have symptoms and limits. It's because parts of our body are working out of their job description. So we do a whole body approach. When I work with people, we look at the whole body and we figure out why you're experiencing what you are to help you get to the next level of your performance. And what makes it different is that if you have a restricted shoulder, we're probably not going to touch your shoulder for 3 sessions. Or it's going to come last because the shoulder is a reaction to something else and we get to the root of the problem first. And that speaks to your introduction when you were like, I was really struck by how quickly my body had changed.
Mhm.
And it can be quick
Mhm.
if you give your body the stimulus that it needs to correct its alignment, because then it's not having to compensate as much, you know?
And so I want to stop you here because let's like break this down in layman's terms because I know what you're talking about and you're so brilliant and you're speaking so eloquently. But like, let's take me as an example.
Sure.
I have old injuries. I have two ribs that broke twice, same ribs,
Two ribs, two
two
times.
ribs, two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Siri's like, uh-huh. No, sorry, no. I have two ribs that have broken two times.
Watch your algorithm, watch everything you search for on Instagram just change because Siri.
Well, it'll just be all ribs, all broken.
Okay.
And it's two different times of my life, once in high school and then once about 6 years ago.
Mhm.
And the first time they never quite healed correctly. And then the second time, I think I was much better at my healing process, but and because of that, it creates, well, you tell them what it did.
Well, you were talking about the experience in your body, so I can definitely talk about the misalignments, but I think speak to your experience of how you were noticing that in your activities.
So, okay, yeah. So not only did it feel like a long process for my ribs to heal this, well, both times, I would get pain in the areas that the ribs dislocated and also where they broke, different areas on either side of my rib cage. And I was noticing that my right shoulder was completely rotated in and that it was just painful to sit up almost. I mean, it was painful to do anything. I was also having a lot of knee pain on the same side of my body, my right side of my body, which is where the ribs broke. And I was getting hamstring tightness in my left leg and then lower back tightness. And it was just like, great, am I just old now? Like, what's going on?
Right.
And, I was really, really getting scared to work out with any kind of weights or strength training. And God forbid I go running or anything really jostling, because that's how I ended up breaking my ribs second time was on a run.
Right.
And
And
so
not getting like chased by someone with a bat when you're on a run.
right, it was voluntary. I chose to go. And
Well, yeah, but you didn't get like hit in the ribs
no, no,
running
no, not at
is
all.
my thing. Yeah.
Was
Mhm.
so bizarre. Like I don't even think I was running at the time that it finally happened. I just was like walking and suddenly was like, oh, I feel weird. It was so slow moving, the pain. The pain didn't even show up. I just felt nauseous all of a sudden. And I was like, ooh. And then I
Yeah.
started feeling that my ribs were hanging. Anyway, not to gross you all out, but it was pretty terrible. And so since then, I've been really afraid to push my body to any other limit than it
Yeah.
is safe going. And
Yeah.
so I'm going
Sure.
to get there and then I'm going to pass to you.
Well, first off, when you were listing the things, the cascade of events that happened after that first rib break, um, something that I see a lot with people is they'll say, oh, I can talk about another client right now who had twins, but the twins are like 12 now.
Hmm.
And she was like, right after I got pregnant, I started having this right hip pain. And I was like, all right, it must be because I just had kids. And like, your body changes and your pelvis has to expand and all these things. And she's like, it'll go away, it's fine. And then she started to have back pain. And then she got like plantar fasciitis on the left side. And then she noticed that her right shoulder's been tight. And this is over the years,
Yeah.
right? And to her, it's just another thing. Like, oh, now randomly and completely irrelevant to anything else I've experienced, I have this left heel pain. And, months go by and it's like, now my right shoulder, what gives? And then it's like, oh, my right ankle and my right foot have been bothering me. And
Yeah.
then she got sciatica like a few months ago. And we go through life, and this would be true if we actually think about it, these patterns we will find not just physically, but things that how we see how certain events in our life can be connected, because of how we move through them. But physically,
Yeah.
it is all it is it is all connected, even when these injuries span years. And so now when it comes to you, you had this first rib break, I think when we were both in high school, right? Yes. And then, you know, there was definitely the like tough guy sort of mentality that we all had, where it's like, it doesn't even hurt that bad, even though
Oh,
you're like
yeah.
internally bleeding. And
Yeah. No, I
I'm
went to
fine.
right. Like I went to the doctor 2 weeks after I broke it, and he was like, "Yeah, you fractured your ribs." I'm like, "What does that mean?" He's like, "You broke your ribs. Like you can't dance, you can't do anything." And I was like, "For how long?" And he's like, "For a few months." And I was like, "Well,
You're
that's not
like,
going to
no,
happen." So
yeah.
I'm just going to go back to
Not
rehearsal
gonna
at
do that.
school. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You're right.
So then you're okay. So your body is so intelligent. So the body is going to heal the best way that it can, and it's going to do whatever it can in order to protect you. This is true with talk therapy too, because you've probably learned the body and the brain and the nervous system are going to do what it needs to keep you safe. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to do what it needs to keep you happy. So your body is healing in the best way that it can, and to protect you after a break and then a subsequent break, which is when it sounds like the rest sort of came faster.
Right.
Of course, when there's a rib cage break, there's no way that your upper body or your trunk won't rotate or won't, like, as a result of the injury, your rib cage or your upper body will translate
Right.
laterally or shift to the side. And then when that happens, it's impossible for your shoulders to, if you look at me just impacting my rib cage position, would you say my shoulders are lined up?
No,
No.
you certainly look like me when I first saw you.
Yeah. And the thing, but here's the thing though. If we were to just say, oh, Emily looks like her right shoulder is like really high, and we do all these exercises on the shoulder, we're not actually looking at like what's happening here with this whole lateral shift in the rib cage,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So that's a perfect example of, you might see one thing, but that's not the root of the issue. And this is just a chain reaction, right? So you injure your ribs. So then I remember you had a little bit of rotation in your upper body, which was going to bring your right shoulder forward. Of course it was. So then you're going to feel some restriction in the shoulder. And then if your upper body is rotated, and then we turn to the side and I'm twisting, then yeah, my upper back is going to be a little more flexed, right? Up through
Yeah.
here, then it feels a little tight. And then as a chain reaction, even if it's subtle, it's noticeable enough that your head will come forward, and that's going to impact. This is the kind of thing that can lead to, let's say, migraines or like constant neck tension. I'm not saying you're getting migraines, but just an
No, but
example.
I have had more migraines than I have ever had in my life this year. So yeah, not
So these
recently.
Yeah, so and there can be like hormonal and hydration variations that can cause migraines, but a lot of the time where your head is positioned relative to your shoulders is the biggest
Yeah.
indicator. And so when it came to you, you have these injuries, and these injuries caused your body uh to heal the best way that it could. And so it healed in a misaligned way because it had to.
Mhm.
And then the only problem is, over the years, instead of reminding your body of neutral or getting your body back into position or helping your body feel safe to,
Mhm.
yeah, rebalance, it actually, the position that you unconsciously created while you were healing was only reinforced through movement. So you
Right.
take this rotated upper body and this asymmetrical shoulder position into your runs. And because it's all connected and your body operates as a unit, it would be impossible for your shoulders and your spine to be or for your spine to be rotated and your shoulders to thus be imbalanced, it would be impossible then for your hips and your knees and your ankles to be like unaffected.
Right.
And impossible. And we noticed, and I really thought it was so incredible because your body did change really fast, but there was that hip elevation, right? And you were, I think it was your left hip was elevated and you were rotating to the left and all these things
That was
to
a
get
mess.
away, to get away from to get away from your pain. But
Yeah.
then your weight distribution was uneven. And then because your weight distribution is uneven with every step you take when you run, if you're going 60-40, 60-40, let's just say,
Yeah.
compound effect over time, that right knee is going to be like, ow.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so running, this is my long lecture to say though, running's not the enemy, you
Yeah.
know, and no sport is the enemy. Our body should move and adapt and do everything. Our bodies are meant to move and be mobile. I mean, we're born that way. And so it's never it's never the activity. It actually is the body you take into it. And so what's wonderful is we don't realize that every move we make, sitting, we could make sitting an exercise because it's a position that our body and our musculoskeletal system has to respond to. And the body you train is the body you have. So that's why after we sit for hours, we're like, huh. But that's the technical term there. But
She was
when
just
we,
over for all of you who are listening.
yeah. However, you can absolutely undo that by just showing your musculoskeletal system or your muscles and your bones what to do instead. Your body will retain it if you show it what to do and you practice it. And we don't even realize, like I think you noticed, there was like a slight knock-kneed position that you were carrying too, that in 4 sessions, the knees started to separate and like line up more with your hips and your ankles so that your
Yeah.
knees weren't touching when your feet weren't.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, this is like the last thing that I cared about because I just wanted to start feeling better. But like I actually looked, I literally started to look thinner because my body was better aligned because things weren't crunched on one side or knock-kneed or whatever. Like I looked taller and thinner. And again,
Well,
that's
yeah.
why we're doing this, but it was a nice little like, oh, okay.
Well, it makes a huge difference. And I mean, and think about if anyone right now is listening to this podcast, let's say you're listening to this podcast and you're in your car, okay? And how about you all just try slouching a little bit more and then look down at your stomach and tell me if you feel like your stomach looks flat when you do that. That's just the perfect example of the position is going to impact the aesthetics. Because and simply, it's not to, I'm not saying it's because your stomach doesn't look good. It's because if you round your back, you're actually pushing down on all of these digestive organs, and then you're going to be compressing, and then you're pushing some of them out. And then, of course, so what's great is when your hips and pelvis are in a neutral position and your spine is lengthened, then how the weight distributes and how your organs sit in your body, it's going to be not only literally more efficient within, like internally,
Yeah.
it's going to be more visually pleasing on the outside.
And it's awesome. But I think, there's something that we talked about very early on, but something that's huge about this that makes this different than physical therapy is that you had said, a lot of people are like, oh, my knee hurts. I'm going to go to physical therapy and we're going to work on my knee. And
Yep,
like,
right.
and really reiterating what you've said is that you need to figure out why your knee is hurting. Is that the root of the cause, or is it something else that's causing your knee to hurt? Because my right knee has hurt for years. And I just thought, well, yeah, I kind of slammed it on like some floors and dance a few
That's
times.
fair. Yeah.
Fair, which is fair.
Fair.
But I'm like,
Yeah.
not to the extent that it should hurt this much.
Mhm.
And when you explained what was actually going on with my body and my alignment, I was like, Oh, well, of course it hurts way more than it should because it's not from those couple of injuries that were, kind of nothing. It was because I was so out of alignment and all of this pressure. I mean, like you said, like 60-40, if like that pressure is going down on that knee or that hip or whatever is happening, yeah, I mean, it's uncomfortable to say the least. So I think, my point is more like, if you go towards the thing that really hurts, it's really more, this is more about figuring out why it hurts and where that's stemming from and fixing the whole body, like you said, and not just one area. Because I mean, that just really opened my eyes. And I didn't come into this knowing really anything about anything. I was like, I don't even know what we're doing. I know it's going to help, but I'm just really not sure.
A
But
real trust fall into
it's
this
very,
experience.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it made so much sense to me as someone who had no idea, right? Of
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, let's fix the whole body, not just, oh, this hurts or that hurts.
Yeah. Well, and I think, do you remember, and this is always my favorite moment when your knee position changed. And I think you were saying like my knee's a little talky, but it's not as bad. But we didn't do any knee exercises.
Yeah.
I think the
Oh,
first session, we just did a lot of shoulder exercises,
oh, yeah. No, we did nothing. And what
like
also was,
shoulder and like hip. Mhm.
yeah, what was so incredible was that I watched my right knee eventually move up. It was so crazy. It was like someone just like took my whole right side of my body and just like pulled it up.
Yeah. And uh and the work we do, and because I don't know if I've said this out loud to everybody who will be listening, but the work we do is all through exercise. So I'm not manually adjusting, like I'm not manually manipulating you. Um, these are all exercises that are put together specific to you and your movements and like your movement pattern and your compensations and figuring out what Jackie is moving around, what Jackie is avoiding, what needs to come back online.
Mhm.
Um, and all of that. That's why the exercises are even designed in the order that they're designed in, because one sets you up for the next. But it's pretty remarkable that in like 5 exercises, for
Yeah.
for a week, you were like, oh, look, my knees aren't touching and my right knee came back up in line with the left, or maybe your left came down. Who's to say? Yeah.
Okay. So, one more thing, and then I want to get into sort of the emotional, spiritual aspect of this, because that's a big, big part of this too.
Sure.
Um, is that, oh no, did I just lose it?
The
Oh, I may have just lost it.
knee, the hip and knee alignment,
Uh,
the shoulder position.
no, it's gone. It
Well, maybe
was,
it'll come back when it's
it'll
actually
come
supposed
back.
to
It
be.
was very
Okay.
little. It was just like a
Okay.
little, like, yeah, yeah, hopefully it'll come back. So let's talk about the somatic process of this because
Sure.
you know, this is whether, you're coming from the standpoint of like, I want to do like inner healing work or any of that in your life, or you're just like, hey, my knee hurts, make this stop hurting, very simply.
And yeah.
Um, you know, you don't have to come from either place. You can just show up and this can just absolutely help.
Yeah.
But if you are interested in the spiritual, somatic part of it, it's a big, big part of this. And even if you're not looking for it, it's going to happen to you because it's just, you can't not experience it. And so, with me, both of my rib breaks happened the first break happened at a very pivotal time in my life that Emily was a part of and makes it a very unique relationship. And the second time was also a really kind of pivotal moment in my life as well. And that's not an accident. Like it may have been, oh, well, sure, those ribs had broken before. And so maybe they're more delicate and prone to break in the future, but it was like 20 years apart. It wasn't like 2 years apart, it was like 20 years apart or something close to that. And when they did happen, our bodies store trauma
Yeah.
and it likes to find a home. And if it has an injury to find a little home, trust me, it's going to stick and just live there and build a fort. It's going to fly its little flag and it's going to be great. And we don't even know that's happening. We just don't
Yeah.
know. But I did know that whenever I would get really stressed out or depressed or something emotional, those ribs would start to hurt. And that's part of why I was scared to do anything else when, physically, especially. That every time they would start to hurt when I was feeling emotionally not so great, I was like, wow, this is triggering that, wound, metaphorically and physically.
Yeah.
And that's what's so interesting is that when we started working together, you did an intake of me and we talked all about this kind of stuff and all about just emotional stuff and what do just all kinds of things. Anyway, but as we started working together, even within well, actually, it's interesting. Every time you and I would work together for our first session for that week, I think you're magic. So let me just say that. I think you're magic, but I would physically be so much more tired, and I could feel my body was like, oh wow, we're releasing toxicity. I would feel kind of
Yeah.
nauseous, not in a bad way, guys. Don't freak out. But
It's been a
like
minute, guys. Yeah.
but you can feel that your body is like opening up in ways that it hasn't done before, and thus releasing stuff and trauma. And like,
A detox.
it's
Yeah.
a detox, right? And so
Yeah.
as we work together, you would ask me, you're like, so are you having any epiphanies? And I was like, yeah, yeah, I am. I'm having all kinds of epiphanies.
I
It's
had 37 of them. Yeah.
right, like so many. And that's what's so beautiful about this work too, is that if you think of your body being out of alignment and all of the energy that is supposed to flow regularly through your body being stuck or out of alignment or just not being able to flow at all, think about what that would be like, as you would say, to have your body back online, not just physically, but also energetically and like emotionally and spiritually. It's just so somatic, and that you're able to like release all of that. So that's like the other half of this that I think is amazing. So I'm sure you have stories of other people who've talked about this.
Sure. Well, you said something that I think I just want to I want to comment on in terms of in life, the things that are like the things that feel really aligned tend to flow more easily. That doesn't mean they're not challenging
Mhm.
and they don't expand us or test our strength, Um, but when a circumstance is aligned or when a relationship is aligned or friendship, partnership, whatever, or an opportunity is aligned, it kind of just like it seems to just move with
Mm.
a level of ease that doesn't require chronic forcing
Mhm.
or like pushing and extra fatigue. And so that's spiritual. Then completely mechanical. If you think about a car, the tires are going to wear unevenly. The tread will wear unevenly when the car is out of alignment. That's why we have to get our tires aligned. And if one tire is wearing before the others, it's not the tire's fault. The alignment of the car is what needs attention, right? And so why wouldn't it be the same for the body? And I think I have become increasingly, is it possible to become increasingly compassionate and frustrated at the same time? I have become increasingly compassionate and frustrated for a lot of modalities and classes and practices that I love to do. This would be dance, yoga, Pilates. There are a lot of them where I think even in the training of the instructor, like the training of the trainers is our bodies are inherently symmetrical. So if you notice that one side is tighter than the other, just allow it and acknowledge it, and that's okay. And we're going to stretch both sides. And like, yes, we are all a little asymmetrical, of course. And yes, you should accept yourself as you are. But I think what frustrates me is that there's no curiosity about why.
Mm.
And I understand if a yoga class has to end at 7 o'clock, it's not like, let's dissect why we think the right hip is so much tighter than the left hip in pigeon. Like, I know we just have to move through the class. But we're disabling this curiosity about why. And then what we're doing is enforcing this imbalance in our practice over and over. And then we're like, oh, it's totally okay. Yeah, my right hip, that's my tight hip. And that's how it will be forevermore. And
Right.
oh, that's
Yeah.
not what it has to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason your right hip is the reason your right hip might be tighter when you're doing pigeon, and I'm just throwing something out there, or the reason it's hard for you to stretch down and actually touch your toes is not because you were just born with tight hamstrings and that's just how it's always going to be. Or, it's not. And I know I sound a little bit flippant. I'm actually trying to be funny about this in an encouraging way because no, are all of us have this capability, and I bet you a lot of people who say they're not flexible actually stretch a lot. They're like stretching their tight hip every day, every other day. They're working really hard to stretch their hamstrings with a little success after the stretch, but then it goes back. So that's why because it goes back to their default setting, they just think, this is me.
Yeah.
And it's because you're stretching the tight muscle. But if we just harken back to earlier in this podcast, this muscle is tight because it's reacting to a dysfunction elsewhere. So stretching the hamstring is looking at the symptom if your hamstring is tight. Stretching your hip, that feels tight, is looking at the symptom here. We have to figure out why. If your pelvis is not really able to hinge or tilt very much, then that probably means your spine is doing more of the work and your hamstrings are in this chronically taut and tight position. Stretching the hamstrings isn't going to fix it. We have to restore the function in your hip hinge, perhaps, or
But
figuring
probably.
out. I'm sorry, what?
I was like, but probably.
But maybe, yeah. Or if you feel like, for me, I know I have had a harder time pigeoning with my right side crossing. And for the longest time, I was just like, well, yeah, because we're all asymmetrical. And I was touting the same stuff. But looking at my alignment before I started working on it, my right hip was so elevated. It was wildly elevated. It was like up in my right rib, elevated. It's amazing. I was standing on both. Talk about 60-40. I think it was like 70 on my left, 30 on my right. So the whole musculature on the right side was like shortened and contracted. So yeah, going into pigeon was a nightmare. But and now it's not. See? But figuring out the root and not being sort of like just kind of mystified and then uncurious. And the reason I think it's important that we get curious about it is because then you're that much closer to actually figuring out that there is a solution, and there is. And you can really unlock more movement, more comfort, more freedom. And that's where this somatic experience can come in. You can experience more than what you're experiencing right now. And a lot of times we don't necessarily believe that we can.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we absolutely can. And you can use the body you have right now. This is one of the most remarkable things. As much as you hear, and I fully endorse, what got you here won't get you there. Yeah, the practices you're doing now, if you want to up level, are not going to get you there. But the wonderful news is the body you have right now will actually be the only thing you need, and a little bit of discipline, to get you the body that you want to up level.
I love that. I think that's so encouraging and inspiring because so many people are walking around just thinking, this is me, this is who I am, this is my limitation, this is what's up.
I can't raise my arms past this because I played football. And
yeah.
Well, no, it's not because you play. I understand that a lot of the movements in football could maybe put you in a restricted place for a while, but if you're not playing football now, then how do you explain that? Then how do you explain this? Like we can unlock these things, anything you want. I'm not saying it'll happen in a day, but you're going to start to feel different. Your nervous system is going to recalibrate. All of your systems are going to recalibrate because your body is its house.
It really does, you guys. Like, again, I came into this really not knowing what the hell I was about to do or what was going to happen. I just didn't know, but I did know that I wanted to do
All that
something.
trust.
Oh, so it's chest. But I did know I wanted to help my body change because it was really starting to get super painful. And it's just, there's not only did I feel trust with you, but now I feel more trust with my body. And
Yes.
yeah, it was because of everything like we're doing. And I feel like I'm helping my body feel stronger and more safe. And so thus now I'm actually starting to work out with weights again and like do strength training, which I was terrified to do
Oh my God.
because
See, look at that though.
Mhm.
Like, look at that amazing mindset shift that
Yeah,
occurred because I know that you have to trust your coach, your trainer, your guide, your mentor. You have to trust them when you get started. But if they're doing their job right, and as I aim to do my job right so that you can trust yourself.
yeah, yeah. And I really am. I mean, it's just there's so many layers to what you do that then like start creating all these other paths that you start doing as the client on your own. And it's just
Yeah.
it is freedom. Like there is so much power in our body that can give us so much freedom. And it's really up to us to just take the chance to be like, okay, you know what? Let me just try working with someone like Emily, or just work with Emily, guys, and help myself, invest in myself and actually help myself heal. Um, because clearly what you're doing isn't working, and
Yeah.
that's just,
Well, or it got you to like this place and then we're at this like plateau and we're sort of just floating here, you know?
yeah.
I it's so funny. It doesn't get old for me. I love doing this. I love helping someone discover just a little tweak that they need to make to just open up a whole new movement pattern. And I have a mentor and a coach as well. And on this coaching call I was on yesterday, she said, small hinges swing big doors.
Wow.
And that really has stayed with me. And it was, that was that came to mind again this morning when I was working with a client who was having a hard time stabilizing doing lunges on one side. Um,
Mm.
and she's like fit, she's athletic, she works out every single day, um, and does like TB12 and all that stuff. And she's like, why can't I just stabilize on my damn, like just so
Yeah.
frustrated. And we made a very small adjustment, um, changed changed the game. And then because she's not falling out of her lunges, guess what happens? She's able to build strength on that side actually versus like
Yeah.
be very solid lunging on one side, can't really lunge as well on the other side. So now the right side's stronger than the left side. And then no, we don't want to keep operating that way. Instead of just being like, well, that's my bad side, lol. Like we have to, what can we do to restore that? And and it was pretty tremendous, just like a very small shift in like her foot position. And then her ankle and her knee realigned and then there wasn't torsion and she wasn't falling out of her lunge. Amazing. And now she can get that glute and the quad and the hip on the left side. So small
Yeah.
hinges can swing big doors.
It's amazing. Honestly, I'm so excited that we've worked together and we will work together in the future. And I'm doing everything you've taught me. And I actually had a really long day the other day where I was just working at my desk like all day long and I wanted to kill somebody. And all I could think was like, I'm almost done. I'm almost done. I just want to go do my exercises like that
Oh,
you for
good.
that week. I was like, I just need to do my exercises and I'll feel better because I could feel it in my whole body. It was like, you've been sitting way too long. Like, get up. And I did. It was like I couldn't wait to just go do my exercises. And oh, of course, I felt better after. So I
Oh,
know,
yay.
I mean, I know like I sound like I'm trying to sell you, but I am because I really, really saw and feel so different. And it's become something that's so important. Like I've told you, it's like I will not go work out unless I do my alignment exercises before. So my body is aligned so I can work out more efficiently. And to me, it's almost like this is so silly, but it's almost like if you do some sort of like a pre-workout drink before you work out,
Yeah.
that's what I feel like with my exercises. I'm like, let me do this first.
Yeah, well, and then then you become a more efficient mover. And then if we're going to speak to, again, aesthetics, when you are symmetrical and you have good posture, not just shoulders back, chest up posture, but you have a balance between the right and the left side, and then you're training, then your muscular development is going to be more symmetrical. And when you have a pretty functional posture, your tone shows more.
Oh,
And
great.
yeah, like what a little life hack. And it's really, and on top of it, then your workout should just feel good versus feeling
Yeah.
like, oh, I know I need to do these deadlifts, but for some reason my back always hurts, like that's not what needs to be happening.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I can absolutely attest to that because every time I do a workout, I feel great after. I do not
Hey.
feel like exhausted or in pain or any of that. I just feel really good. And so this is great. I just love what you do so much. And I'm so glad that you can come on and really just like explain what it is and what it does. And it really has been life changing. And I tell everybody about you now. I'm like, if you have any sort of pain, you need to go see Emily.
Well, and thank you. And it also, even if, I mean, pain, sure, but then also just pushing past plateaus in your performance, which actually, I don't know because I don't know how much you want to dive into this, but you're a singer
Hmm.
and this would have impacts on that as well. I don't know if you necessarily are able to speak to that because you definitely were focused more on, restoring a body alignment that doesn't cause your ribs to hurt. But
Yeah.
I don't know, were you able to notice or were you doing your sequence around like before or after you were singing it all, where you were able to notice that like, oh, as my alignment changed, my access to my range changed?
My range
Or
is a lot easier to access, especially my upper range, even when I'm just working out, like when I'm warming up, essentially. It's funny. I'm like, wow, I'm hitting some really high notes. My favorite way to start warming up is humming. So
Mhm.
I don't have to like bother my neighbors too much, but humming's really, really effective. And I'll just
Yeah.
like humming these incredibly high notes that I never ever would have hit whilst humming. Usually I have
Ah,
to open my mouth to make that happen. And I'm
yeah.
really like, wow, I'm actually working with my voice teacher tomorrow for the first time in a long time. So we'll see what happens. But I've been accessing much higher notes and range that I don't typically access on a regular basis. And it's a lot more easy. It's
Oh,
easier.
cool.
So we'll see. I mean, I love the fact that we talked before this, and you were saying you had a client who's also increased her range as a
Yes.
singer
Yes.
because you're more aligned and like your throat. Well, explain it. Like your throat is more open, right?
Your
It's
throat's
like,
more open.
yeah,
Yeah, because if your head is just slightly forward or your upper back is a little bit tighter, then you're already going to make your breath more shallow. And then any note that you're trying to project, your voice is going to be more, you'll be finding it more from your throat versus from your diaphragm. And
yeah,
then it makes your higher notes definitely less supported and a little more screechy,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is not what we want. And it's really cool because I've worked with a few singers, but right now I just worked with you and I'm currently working with like she has a rich alto voice, but she's trying to expand her range and her upper back was pretty like it was pretty rounded and her head was forward and it was still amazing. She still has an amazing voice. And
Mhm.
just over the last two sessions, she's trying to expand past alto one, maybe into like mezzo soprano
Oh,
range. And last last week before we did a sequence, we did a little litmus test and she sang a section. And the highest part, she cracked and okay, I mean, it's gonna happen, but she cracked and it was like, we have hit my ceiling, right?
Yeah.
But that's also cool because the ceiling's an illusion. We worked on her alignment last week. She didn't crack last week. We worked on this song and then starting the session today. So she had been doing her exercises for a week, starting the session today. She sang, and where she was starting was better than where she ended last week. And then at the end of the session, sang that part again. And the look on her face was like, she surprised herself. Like it was actually really moving because she had never, like she hadn't heard herself hit that. And that was really cool. And you can see, because we filmed it, that her head went from like, she was about here. Her head was here when we started. And now it's already like so much more in line with her shoulder, which has opened this up and gives her more access to a deeper breath. And it was like just so transformative, so fast. So this goes even, this reaches to anything. Singing is a physical sport, So anything you need your body for, your body will benefit from being aligned.
It's really true. It's so true. I know singers need more credit. You have to be an athlete to be a singer. And I'm not kidding. I'm not joking.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Emily, thank you so much for coming on and telling everybody what you do and explaining it. I can't wait to have dinner with you afterwards.
Thank you for having me. And I can talk about this all day. It's so fun. And we all can relate to having anybody with a body.
Yeah.
Benefit from it. Yeah.
It's true. It's so beneficial in every single way you can think of and ways that you couldn't even imagine. So please tell people how they can find you.
Oh, yes. Well, my Instagram is unleashed.movement. And my website is unleashedmovement.com. And my name is Emily Depauw, and those are the two best ways you can find me.
Perfect. And all the links will be in the show notes. Click on them, go follow her, reach out if this episode talked to you, spoke to you. Seriously, don't hesitate, just reach out. One of the best things I've ever done. I'm so happy I did this.
Yay. I did want to say I do offer complimentary consultations, and you can book a consultation on my website. And there's no cost to that. And then you can at least get information about your body and, we can go from there. So that at least is free education.
Yay.
Yes.
I love it. Thank you so much, Emily.
Thank you, Jackie. This was great.